Today we're going to be talking to Jasmine Hanlon. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's how you pronounce it.
Okay,
from
good.
Move It, Shake It.
Move It, Shake It events. A bit of a different one for us because she's not one of our customers, but she's got a really interesting story and business model.
Well, we went a bit rogue, didn't we? We were like, let's just get a non-customer in, because she's very much in the kids activity industry space, but does something, as you say, very, very different. She doesn't run a club or a dance school. She runs
events. And she runs events for different dance schools. And I just think with the length of this one, without further ado, will we just get it started?
I think we should. Let's go straight into it.
Here we are, Jasmine Hanlon. Here we are today with Jasmine Hanlon from Move It, Shake It events.
Hi.
It's events. That's time.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Very good. Thanks for coming up to see us from not Birmingham.
Not Birmingham. Near Birmingham. Not Birmingham.
An hour outside of Birmingham?
An hour outside Birmingham.
I wouldn't say that's near somewhere if it's an hour away.
Yeah, but then if you're from a place that's kind of between two places, you'll just tend to say the biggest city. So,
Right, okay.
Like,
Yeah,
we
well-
don't live in Glasgow, but we would say to people, maybe I live in Glasgow, that type of thing.
Welcome to ClassForKids.
Thank you. I'm super excited. I mean, this is a bit snazzy.
Yeah, it's quite cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we spent a bit of time decorating in here. I
Yeah,
think we came
like
back after Christmas, and it was just Stephen and I in the studio at that point, and we were like, do you know what? Let's decorate it. It's great to be able to host people coming into the office,
Yeah.
customers, people
Yeah.
that we work with. So it's great to have you. How have you found your morning so far?
I mean, this is my 4th cup of coffee. So
Is it an
far.
Americano?
No, it is this is a hazelnut latte.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's-
fancy
Where'd you get that
Yeah.
from?
Seema. Yeah.
She is on it. She's not offered us a hazelnut latte.
No.
We'll be having a word with her
I was
after
like, oh
this.
my gosh, I feel like I'm in Starbucks. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Flight was super easy, and I feel it's exciting to see the offices. I think I was on a high because first time in Glasgow, and I didn't know what to expect from the offices, but it wasn't this.
So what did you know about ClassForKids before coming? I mean, I know you've had some conversations with Seema, but who were we in your mind, and how does that transfer to who we actually are?
Yeah, totally different actually. So I've been aware of your company for quite a while. So I set up my business in 2014.
Similar time to us.
Yeah. So I was aware of it then, but I was obviously very small and and just starting out, but I was also working for another company at the time doing STEM related stuff.
Okay.
So STEM related activities. And you guys, well, maybe not you, but the company had contacted me to see if we could do anything and see if it worked, but the company that I was working for was a franchise.
Yes.
And they didn't want it because they had their
Right,
own
yeah.
CRM system, they had their own onboarding system and their own website, and it's a Canadian based company. So the website was Canadian, and they just didn't want to change their systems, and it all had to go through there. So I was aware of that, and then I just kind of kept in contact with you guys for other little bits, like to see if there was anything else and any other promos, and a couple of social media bits just to see. And then, so that was then, so a little while ago. And then Seema contacted me completely out of the blue, but I did know about you guys. So I say out of the blue. I knew who you were.
Yeah.
It wasn't like trying to introduce me to the brand. But it's grown such exponentially from then to now, and in my head it was still like small, and there's just a couple of things, and then once she'd contacted me, I was like, right, let me have a look at the website and let me see what's going on now, and it was just totally different, and there's like
Big
now
change.
lots of providers and lots going on, and
I think definitely there's been more providers coming up in that space, and I think for us after COVID was a big time for us where we really grew, because during COVID we were more of a support mechanism for clubs out there, so whether that was dance schools, whether it was football academies, what we would do is provide a lot of supportive content, like you can't run your classes right now, but here's other ways you can generate revenue, here's how you can do online classes. And then after COVID kind of ended, we've seen more and more clubs opening back up, and I think since then, over the past, we've both been here around about 3 years, it has grown exponentially.
I think it's entirely down to us, to be honest. I mean, that's when the growth really started.
I didn't want to say it so,
I heard like the podcast guys that like that's what made the difference.
Yep.
That's what I've heard.
I mean, it's what Jasmine said. It's not us. We didn't feed you that line.
You heard it here.
You'll get your money later, though.
Thanks, here's another coffee. Do you know what? That makes such a big difference, because, and you can see that quite a lot, is when the companies were supported by somebody like yourselves, not only because us as children's providers, COVID was hard.
Yeah. Oh.
COVID was hard, and for some people, it was a really, really dark period, because a lot of old school, I mean, I'm talking from a dance point of view now, right?
Yep.
But from a lot of old school dance teachers, they didn't even have an online presence
Yep.
within their school.
We
They
know,
took
I mean, we were in the
cash
thick of it.
payment.
Yeah.
You know, so they're like, what? We've now got to try. And for them, they just could not see how this would possibly work doing it online. And then you had some of the newer the newer teachers, or I don't want to say younger because that's not always the case, but a lot of the ones that were just fully on board of like, right, we have to do something. What are we going to do? And they really grew during that time, and they kind of saw a gap in the market. So for you guys to have been a support network for activity providers, and not just for dance, but for activity providers as a whole, I think it felt like they had their hand held, like we're not alone, because I do know quite a lot of people, dance teachers that use you. After I spoke to Seema, a lot of them use you, and they did feel like supported, but also not alone. Like, okay, cool, we're not the only one that's struggling here.
Yeah.
And even just to share ideas, to go, right, this is what we can do, and it's working for other people in other areas. I feel like I can pay the bills, because that was a big deal for a lot of schools, is that especially the ones that had their own studios.
Exactly, you still got those overheads running no matter what, and mortgages to pay, and then those kind of things, and you know, there wasn't always a lot of support out there, unfortunately, so we kind of did what we could. And
No, and for me personally, as my business, I actually grew during COVID.
Okay.
So, which is weird because I do
because
events.
It's kind of events based. How did that happen then?
Yeah, really strange. So so COVID hit. I was actually in LA, in the February. Yes, so I was in LA in the February, and that's when in America, COVID, like the word COVID, was like being bounced around, and it was on the news. And me and my partner had gone out there. We were there for nearly 4 weeks, and we were doing road trips, and everywhere we went, people were like, don't get too close because of COVID and we were like, what is COVID? What is this? And so, I rang my mum and I said, have you seen the news? Like, what's going on there? And she was like, my mum was like, don't be so dramatic, darling. There is nothing going on here. And I was like, I don't know if we're going to have to fly home, because they were talking about airports. And she was like, obviously I'm a dancer, right? Performing that. She's like, you're so dramatic. This is ridiculous. She put the phone down. And then we ended up getting the last flight home from LA, not realising until on the plane, and the pilot's like, just letting you guys know, this is happening. You've now got to do this and this and this. And this was before masks was a thing. So they're coming around with this hand gel, and we're like...
On the plane?
On the plane.
Right.
So kind of like, when you would go and visit, like... That's weird, right?
Yeah.
Especially, and we're talking pre-masks, So we were like, what? When you would go to, like, I don't know, maternity units, and they'd be like newborns, and you would have... That's the only place that I'd seen, like, hand sanitizer like that before, so it was really weird. They were coming with this industrial, and we were like, what is going on? They were like, don't touch this, don't touch that. We're like, don't touch the board in front from a flight from LA. Like, it was a little bit weird. But still quite chilled. Yeah. But still chilled. And then we got home, and within a week it had locked down. Now, I had an event, I had a comp. I don't know, let's say I flew home on the Monday, the event was on the Sunday. It was like within that week. And people were like, is the event still going on? And I'm like, yeah, because it wasn't really spoken about within the UK, and it was massive in America. It wasn't really spoke about in England. And then my event still happened, and then the week after is when we went into full lockdown. So I had to cancel. So this was in the March now, wasn't it? Yeah, March. So I had to cancel, oh my God, tons of events. Maybe at least 20, 25 events.
Because your business is all events based. It's all events. It's that immersive experience, right?
It's all events. Yeah, that's what I do. It's all events. I don't run a dance school anymore. That's all I do is dance events, comps, intensives. That's all I do. So I was like, oh my God, like if I can't get people in a room,
there's a bit of a problem.
There's an issue. We've got an issue. Got an issue. What do I do? And I'm not going to lie, for that first kind of week, of watching the news, and you're like, what is the solution here? Because you just couldn't. Everyone was going a bit crazy. We couldn't see what was going on, and we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, right? Do we all remember when Boris was like, yeah, we're going to lock down for just like 14 days?
Yeah, we were like, we'll be back in the office in a couple of weeks. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Oh my God, a 2 week break. Great. But for me, it wasn't great.
Had you not just joined this company a week before?
I joined on the 9th of March, and I think we locked down. So I was in the office like a full working week plus a day.
And I remember our boss at the time going, I was like, this is a bit mad, isn't it? This is all a bit crazy. And she's like, if the kids' club shut down, we're going to be shutting down. Yeah. Like shutting down. And I was like, oh. And I joined 2 months before. And I was like, oh.
God.
So we were both like, we're new here.
And then we were immediately home for the best part of 2 years. I mean, we did come back in and dip out. So how did then?
Sorry. I was like,
you grew, but how did you manage?
Yeah. So watch the news. 2 week cancel all the stuff. I had to give everybody back, obviously, their deposits. Right. So which for me, it's just me. Yep. It's just me that runs the company. I don't have a team.
Do you have any funders or anything like that? It's all
it's just me. And everybody that works for me is all self-employed. So they're like contractors because I run events all over the country. Yep. And although I have a small team that travel with me, they don't just work for me because they're doing, they're teachers or they're doing whatever else. Which I suppose was a good problem for me because I was like, at least I haven't got staff kind of relying on me. Yeah. But equally, I do have a lot of people that work for me a lot. Yeah. And I know that I pay their bills. I know that I'm the biggest.
Yeah, they may not be fully employed, but you are their main source of income.
Exactly that. So I kind of felt a responsibility. It's not about, although I still need to pay my bills, right? Yeah. Like it's not just about me. I need to think of the bigger picture because what people weren't realising when events were closing down is that it affects then the caterers. Yeah. It affects then the tech team. It affects the cleaners.
There's a domino effect of it. Right?
Yeah, huge because, as an event provider, I'm providing a lot of jobs. Mm-hmm. So I was like, so then I've got to turn around to the cleaners that self-contract and say, guys, you've not got a job either. Like it was so big. Mm-hmm. So for the first kind of two to 3 weeks, I was in like a bit of a panic mode of like, right, okay, let's just write it out and see what happens. I'll cancel it and I'll give their refunds back and we'll see how it goes. And I did, in that time, quite a lot of online competitions. Okay. So dance schools were able to, dancers did it individually and was able to submit their video to me. I then had a panel of judges and we did it live and I very quickly learned how to do this whole Zoom thing, which that
was like it's all. I was like, what's Zoom? Yeah. 2 weeks later, I'm a master at Zoom.
Yeah, I'm a master at Zoom and I had like different backgrounds and and then I had my name coming up on the screen thinking I was on like BBC News. So did that. I was like, this is going really well. And for my first online comp that I did, I think I had about 100 entries. Right. And I was like, okay. And then the second one that I did, I had like 400 entries. And then the third, and it just kind of went a bit crazy. And then I was having them from all over the world then.
So do you think people were looking for something to do in a way in lockdown and we're thinking, right, actually I want to enter this competition, I want to do something like, because a lot of people did run online classes, and I know like a couple of our clubs, one of them Simon Says Dance in Edinburgh, he had like attendees for online classes from places like Malaysia, from the States and all that different things. So I think people were looking for this collective community wherever you were in the world because everybody was kind of experiencing the same thing.
So I think so, but also I was like, this is a very British comp. So I was having a lot of dancers from like China or Japan or America because all my judges obviously speak like, well, we sound a bit like Mary Poppins, like the ones that are from London. So I think all of the Americans were like, oh my God, because the judges were like,
that's Van Dyke judging
oh my gosh, absolutely loved it, and so
Mary Poppins.
So I think that was a bit of a novelty as well. But then the biggest change for me wasn't the online space. It was, this was hard, but this is what changed my business is as soon as I realised that what I was doing was probably wrong because I was advertising out for children to come and do an online comp because I was like, that's my business, that's what I do. And then I was like, oh my God, this is not what I do. What I do is I help the dance teachers put on extra classes. And it just didn't register with me, if I'm honest with you, because I'm like, what I actually do as a dance business is not providing, I don't provide trophies and medals and accolades for children, even though that's what they see, best personality, you've won regional dancer of the year, and they get all that. But what I'm actually doing is providing a space where dance teachers are able to put on extra classes and workshops for their dancers to generate more income for them in order for them, you know, to create better student morale within the school, hire technique dancers and create solos and, like I say, generate more income. Is that I was cutting them people out, and I thought, oh my, and it didn't register with me for the first month, if I'm honest, when I was doing the online comps, until so one of my best friends, she owns a dance school, and I was like, hey, how are you getting on? And we were speaking every day, and she was like, mate, it's hard because there's just no reason why they're coming. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm cutting them out. And I just hadn't realised that I was cutting out those people that are vital to what I do. So then this was when we had the 30 rule, you know, like the 30 people in a space rule, if you remember that, regardless of how big the space was. So what I did then is I spoke to all my venues that I used, that I had really great relationships with, and I said, look, I can't pay you your normal higher rate. There's no physical way, but could I get a discounted rate if I bring my own team to clean and you know, and I kind of negotiated with them a bit. They were like, do you know what, give us anything. They were really happy for anything, and they just kind of come and unlocked it, and they were like, you know how to work the sound desk, you know how to work the lights. If you do it, it's going to provide anything as income. So I did.
Were these private venues? They weren't council sort of led venues or anything like that?
No, they were all private venues.
Because we heard the trouble a lot of the time was from the kind of the ones that were the more kind of council led, the more kind of, and that they were not for opening, and a lot of the dance schools where that's where they had to go.
I guess it's maybe more regulation and more kind of policy with councils, whereas private lets maybe had their own, had to make up their own rules, I guess, and think about that.
So a lot of the theatres that were owned privately, or I use a lot of private schools. So it was just the decision of the head teacher to say, or the groundskeepers, or are we doing this or not? And some of the groundskeepers, especially in the private schools that I use, live on site, and they were like, yeah, great, we'll open it up and we can go. So what I was doing was going in, I would have 30 dancers at a time. So if you were a dance school and you had, let's say, 100 children, you could only bring 30 at a time. They would go on the stage, and you could bring less if you wanted to bring adults with you.
Okay, that's right.
Because
that's true,
if they wanted to have like adults watching, so they would come, they would bring them, I would give them a specific time slot, they would perform all of their solos, which is totally different to what I usually do, because it's all dance schools together, and you would do section by section, so all of the lyrical, then all of the jazz, and all of the acro, whereas I couldn't run it like that. So each dance school had like a 2-hour slot. They would perform all of their solos, all of their duets, all of their troupes. The judges would score them on scorecards. They would leave. I'd have to fumigate the whole space, clean the space, and then the next dance school would come in. So I'd have to leave a half an hour gap in between every dance school.
Right. That's right.
And then so the comp would start at 7 o'clock in the morning. I would leave the venues at like 1 o'clock in the morning, because we had to, like, it was so spaced out. But I was saying to dance teachers, look, you've got a 2-hour space. I can give you 8 until 10 at night. Do you want it? And they were like, yeah, because what are we going to do the next day? The kids have not got school. We'll take it. So they were so happy that they could do it. And there was lots of rules, right? You know, you've got a hand gel, you've got to wear a mask, you had to sit 2 meters apart, you weren't allowed to scream and cheer for the kid. Like, you could clap.
Yeah, I remember that. You know, like sing. Remember, I had to go to school to film. Remember, I helped that year in my kids' school film the panto. And they all had to mime. They all had to go like, and not actually sing at all. And it was just like, this is really weird, and I had to sync up the audio. I
think the dance teachers were so glad that there was something on that the kids could work towards, and then it just changed my whole business. Because then as soon as I was saying to the dance teachers, look, this is not about the children getting an award, although it's great, and if they do, like, winner, but this is about you being able to offer comp classes to give a purpose and a reason as to why your children need to come to class online. They need to click on Zoom. They need to be a part of it, and they still need to work on their technique and work on their solos. But then also the parents were seeing, why are they going to dance again? Because we've got no shows this year. So again, some of the parents were like, well, we won't add in this class. And so then the knock-on effect for parents. Then as soon as they saw, right, we're going to comp. Oh, you'll need an extra couple of solos, mate. You'll need some more privates. You need to do this. So then that was building it back up. And I was openly advertising it to dance teachers as this isn't about what it usually is coming to comp to win best dance school and to win this. It's about your business. And the dance teachers, you know, I probably double the amount of dance teachers that came on board with me within that COVID time of doing it like that. And I was just really honest with them, and I was like, look, it's going to be weird, and we're not going to be able to do this, and it's going to be late, some of the slots, but are you up for it? And they were. And then after that, once things started easing up, we could then have 60. So then I was like, right, I can have 2 dance schools. How do we feel about this? And just kind of, you know, did it like that. And then when we got back to normal, all of those dance schools have now stayed with me.
Yeah, the loyalty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, which I'm so unbelievably grateful that dance schools want to come back to me every time. And I've got one particular dance school, and she's been with me since my very first comp, and I don't know if she's missed one yet. Like she travels with me everywhere, maybe other than Scotland, but she sometimes comes to judge that one actually. But she comes to every single one, and it's important, isn't it? Loyalty is important. But I think because some of them had seen what I was doing and that it wasn't about me, although obviously I still need to pivot and work my business, they kind of realised that what I was doing for the dance community, I think they feel, or some of them feel like a little bit of loyalty of like, she's going to look after us, it's all right. You know?
Yeah.
Like this is going to be...
That's what we got.
Yeah.
It's the same vibe we got. Well, interesting. So, right, dance events, dance comps.
Yeah.
Where did your kind of journey in dance, put your business aside a second, where did your journey in just dance start? You must have been a dancer.
I mean, if we're going back to when it started,
let's go.
Like,
doodle-doo,
18 months old in a gorgeous little tutu, like on the stage to Winnie the Pooh, which I think my nan still got the video of somewhere. But yeah, I've danced my whole life.
Okay.
And I've always been the everything dance kid.
Yeah.
So did ballet, tap, acro.
Did you do like theatre and things like that as well? Okay.
Yeah. So did all of that, and then did Amdram. You know, did all of that stuff, and did all like the grade work that you would usually do, and then went to dance college. I went from an arts college, and my one was like, it was like fame. It was just the best. But then within that, we had this really, really small section of dance business, and it was like a small module.
That's so good that they do include those modules, because so many, like, we have the Royal Conservatoire in Glasgow, and a lot of their courses don't include the business elements. So you've got these like dancers, you've got musicians going out, and they're kind of like, okay, how do I do my tax? How do I start my business? How do I promote my business? So that is so good to hear that there are courses out there that do that, because so many don't, and
so
people
many
really don't know how to.
But it was just a small
it.
module in it though, so it was okay, but then
yeah.
you latched onto that side of it.
Yeah, so I think the reason they did it, if I'm honest, is that one of the lecturers really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why she did it, because that's not always the way, but I think because she was just great, and she would just speak to you dead normal, and it didn't feel like, oh my God, this is business, and I need this. Like, it was just really normal, and I was like, okay, this is good, and I'm getting distinctions in this class. Like, and I was like, I realised that I was where my skill set lied was like in the organisation. I was like, oh my God,
are you a very organised person?
Yes, although my partner I'm sure would say no. I love a highlighter and a spreadsheet. Like, this is for me. And then obviously, like, still dancing, and I think as dancers, as kids especially, there's this like misconception of, you go to dance school, then you go to dance college, then you get a dance job, and then you're a teacher, and that's the only pathway. And it's something that I really feel like needs changing, but it's like that's the only thing. And you hear so many parents go, but what's your backup plan? What about if you get injured and you get the dance job? And I'm like, there's so many things that they could do that are still within the arts. So loved it, obviously still loved dancing, and was loving my modules and was really enjoying it. And then it was the year that snowed really bad. Like
the beast from the east.
Before then.
No idea.
We're like, well, we know this. The beast from the east.
Yeah, no, before then. This was like, I'm talking, like 16 years ago.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
right, okay.
And it snowed. This is when I was at dance college, and it snowed really bad, like ridiculous. And at this point, I had like a real rubbishy, like tinky car because you're at dance college and you've got no Mini, and I've got this tiny little car. And where I went to dance college, it was a real snazzy area, and like there was big houses, and there was a Porsche in front of me, and it was a real snazzy one. And there was a Porsche on one side and there was a Lamborghini part the other side, and on my car's swerving, and I've got a Fiat, like I don't even know what it was. It was like just like a box car, and I'm swerving, and I'm like, right, there's a ditch here, there's a Lamborghini, and there's a Porsche. I can either go into two of them cars, and I'm probably going to have like really mad people come out and see me, or like I can try and go into the ditch. And my car's just going all over the place. I went into the ditch. It was the smallest, when I say accident, it was like, nothing. But I'd hurt my neck a little bit, and I was the acro kid.
Right.
So I was the bendy one. And that little like twink was enough for me not to be able to do walkovers anymore. And then I was like, oh my God. And it really like shocked me of like, if
anything was to happen.
Yes. And I'm talking like, when I say accident, it really was like, like, oh, I'm just down a bit because it like jolted my neck. I was like, oh my God. And I recovered and it was fine, but it
gave
me the shock of like.
That's what I always think when it comes to like even anybody in the sporting profession as well. If
musicians?
Musicians, you hurt your hand, that's it. Your band's done type thing. Yeah.
And like you hear your dance teacher go, your body's a temple and you need to look after it, and you think, okay, sure. And then I was like, oh my God, like she's right. Like now what? So that kind of scared me a little bit. And that's when I was dabbling with events. So as soon as I'd kind of graduated, and I was working for that STEM company at the time, but I was dabbling in events, but I'm talking one a year.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing like, can I do this? Is it something that I enjoy? Am I good at it? Or are people going to be like, what is she doing? So I was just kind of dabbling, and then and at this point I started at my dance school as well, because what else do you do if you're a dancer? Like you start up a dance school. If you're not going to go,
that was the question further down the line. Like presumably you did have a dance school. So it was your own one.
It was my own dance school.
Called?
JDC.
JDC, cool.
Yeah, really inventive. Jasmine's dance company. And I loved it. And, you fall in love with the kids, don't you? And, like, you see them grow and you put on little shows, and it was great. And I did that for years, and I was still dabbling in the event space.
What dance events then as well? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
But not just for your school?
No. So I was running my school, all year, and then I would put on, like, one comp a year.
Okay.
And just invite, like, local schools and say, look, do you want to come? And when I look back now, it's almost laughable that like how it run and what I did, because I just think I can't even believe that anybody came, and that some of them still come now. But it's crazy. So I was kind of dabbling in that. It was great. Loved the school was growing, and that's all you think that you do, right? Like this is my life now, is that I run the school and I'm going to keep growing the school, and because again there's no other kind of options. And although I was loving the other side of like the events, I didn't think it could be a full-time job.
Like sustainable for the long term. Yeah.
I just didn't realise that it could be a full-time job. And I was like, nobody does this. It's for fun. Almost like when people go to, but what's your real job?
Yeah.
So I didn't realise. And then... and I was living over in Henley and Arden near Stratford-upon-Avon. So I was living over there, but my partner was living completely somewhere else, which was like an hour and a little bit drive. So I ended up moving nearer to him because for his work he couldn't move. So I moved nearer to him, and then and still kind of growing the school, and I was still loving life. And then had a miscarriage quite late on in my pregnancy, and then again that was the second shock of like. So I was like over 3 months, so it was quite and. I thought, oh my God, and then I couldn't teach. So I was like, not only can I not dance, I can't teach. Like, and then, a bit of like an identity crisis, like this is all I've done my entire life. My entire life I've been built up to, that's the only thing that I do. I dance, and that's all I know. Like,
is that the voice in the back of your head of like someone saying, well, what's your backup plan?
What's your backup
plan?
Yeah, and like, that's the, like, I have no backup plan. You know, that was the voice of like, oh my God. But at this point I was still working for the STEM business, but again, it was a franchise. The guy that owned it just wasn't interested. He was kind of changing the rule book, and he was very out of the business, and it was just all getting a little bit crazy. And he'd sacked all the staff except from me and one other, and I was just like, what am I like? Yeah. What am I gonna do? So this was then, and again, kind of like, you know, two light bulb moments for me, right? So one was the crash, an essay crash in the loosest term, and then one was the miscarriage, and I was like, it's almost, and I do believe in kind of like, if it's meant to be, it will be. Yep. And I believe in like fate quite a lot, and I do believe that we have like a path, and if you're not on the right path, things will happen to put you on the path. That's what I believe, which may sound a bit woo-woo. And I was like, I'm being pushed towards events. Like that, you dabbled with it, and you knew that there was something in it. Like people were coming along to this, even though you thought, you look back on it, you think, why did they do it? But people were invested in that. Yeah. So I was like, right. And then that's when I started to take it far more seriously. So that was 7 years ago. Right. Yeah, 7 years ago, I think. And that's when I started to take it far more seriously and was like, this is me.
So is that the time then? How long did the school continue?
I kept the school going for another year.
Right, with other teachers as well involved?
No, just me.
Just you, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Just me.
Okay.
And then that's when, you know, like, right, you just can't do everything. Yeah. And I also strongly believe, and I know that I'm sure some people that are going to listen to this and very much disagree with me, but I don't believe that you should run competitions and have your own school. Okay. And I realised that I was like, it's a huge conflict of interest.
Well, you can't have your school compete in the competitions you run.
No, and then, no, not at all. You can't have that.
So do you mean they're running competitions in an area and their school's attending plus 6 others?
Yeah.
Okay.
That happens.
Really?
Happens.
Or does it happen that they would run a competition just internally within their own school?
No.
Classes? No, just
they would run a comp, invite other schools. Yeah. Their school will compete. Okay. They will employ a judge, but you know, like, it's their comp, it's their kids. The judge knows that it's their kids. I think that it's wrong. Plus, even if they don't invite their children and they still run a school, this is what I was finding. I'm like, what does it mean? When another school wins or a child wins, but I'm a dance teacher that owns a school, what does it mean? Yeah. What's the accolade there? Because I'm just like you. Like, we're just dance teachers, right? That's running a fun comp. So I was like, right, I need to... And there's like festivals and there's comps, and they're very different things. So you have some dance teachers that will run like a festival. It's a little bit more relaxed. And I say relaxed in terms of like having your own score there and that kind of thing. And then comps are usually a bit kind of louder and a bit crazier and a bit... There's other stuff going on. Yeah. There's lights, there's confetti, there's other stuff. And I was like, I need to take my comp up a notch to be that one that when kids win at my comps or they get a title, they're like, oh my God. And that they don't see me as a dance school owner. Yeah. They see me as, that's the comp that I want to go to. Yeah. That's
you see as an authority.
Yeah, an authority within the space. Yeah. So that's when I was like, I need to make my mind up. Am I a dance school owner? Or am I going to do comps? Am I going to run comps? And am I going to try and get myself into that space and be the one that people want to go to? And it really means something when they win. So that was the decision. I mean, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because you get to know the kids and it's awful. But that's the decision that I had to make, and I believe that I was being pushed that way.
So fast forward a few years, where is Move It, Shake It now? I mean, you've got over 20,000 followers on your Instagram, multiple events throughout the UK, England, Scotland, Wales. Yeah. Where is it now?
Oh my God, I just love it. Yeah, I love it. I still feel like a bit giddy when I go to an event and people come up to me and they go, oh, we've had a great time. And I'm like, yay, I'm so glad you have. Or like when kids ask for photos with me at the end, nice. And you're like, oh, I just feel so grateful that people come to the events and they enjoy them. So I now run an event almost every Sunday of the year.
Wow.
Except like Christmas, you know. But I run a lot. So I run a lot of comps.
How big's your team?
So there's just me that does all like the, you know, like the admin, the marketing, the customer service, the kind of like the back side of the things. And then team that comes with me on the day.
Yep. So do you do like the venue booking and all that, sourcing the venues and whatnot, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then team that comes with me on the day, I have like a team of judges. I have about 12 different judges that I have, and they'll just rotate different, because I can't expect anyone to be as crazy as me and say, you know, you're going to work every Sunday. So I have a team, and I hire professional dancers or professionals within the industry, you know, choreographers or people that are still on doing TV or theatre work, which is great, because I, again, strongly believe that it's better to hire people within the industry than to hire adjudicators, because they're seeing the things that are coming up now, you know, like what's fresh now. So when they're giving feedback, it's feedback for industry now, not 20 years ago when they were performing.
Absolutely. It's keeping it really current, isn't it? And like exactly like you say, what's trending now, like what's in the West End, like what are people doing, what changes are happening. And I think, you know, these kids will recognise the people that you're hiring as well. And
exactly. And that's super exciting for them, because you know, when they see them and they follow them on Instagram and they, you know, they're like, oh my God, it's her.
And that must be good in like a marketing sense for you to have these people on board. I mean, I know you'll have professional relationships, but to be able to see such and such is coming and they've been in this production in the West End or they're in this TV show, you know, there's interest from kids, because that's...
we're doing similar things as well in the space, like with Misha.
You were working with Misha Garbett, so we're hosting a masterclass with her next.
And the kids looked at us as the authority, and they kind of, you know, we couldn't put...
But she absolutely is.
We couldn't put anybody in that position that would replace that kind of the gooey-eyed look that the kids give to her.
And I actually think fair play to her, because there are loads of children within that film, but she's really used her platform in a positive way. And I think, do you know what? Well done her, because... you know, she's not only teaching children a fab workshop, which I'm sure that she will, but she's just like them. She's giving them that spark of like, I'm just you guys. You could be me.
We were at Move It down in London, and she'd done a big talk down there. And I mean, she's a really positive kid. Yeah. And like you say, she's talking to her peers. That's what you say, isn't it? Peers. And it was just all real positivity coming from her. And it's the way to go, I think. So you're onto something there.
And again, within our industry, I think because there's so much negativity about, you know, that kind of dance moms era, that kind of, you know, a lot of parents almost expect dance teachers to be crazy, you know, and for them all to be quite negative and rivals, and it's just not the case. You know, you will find that there are some dance school rivals, but as a whole, again, at my events, I really try and promote being kind to each other, and I have an award where it's a secret award. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this actually. I don't know if
it's a secret.
If there's any kids that come to my comps listening, turn off now. But I do an award where it's the kindest dancer, and I'll look backstage of the dancers that are saying to each other, "Love that costume."
Oh, that's so lovely.
Because it's really important to be not only kind to your own dance school and your own team, but I make a point of the kids that are from another dance school, even though you think they're your rivals at the minute, if you want to be professional dancers, they're going to be your cast mates. You're going to be on stage with that person, and there's no rivalry then. You're all the same. You know, and they'll remember if you're not nice to them. So being nice, it goes both ways, and you know, you're just as nervous as they are. So I do a little secret award, and if it's happening, you know, I'll give it out at the end and I'll say it, and if not, then they don't get that award.
That's nice. Now they are going to listen to this.
They are going to listen.
And be backstage. Are you okay? Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Do you like some
do you know what? If it's promoting more kindness, that's not a bad thing.
That's it.
You know, it's a good thing.
Yeah. But sorry, going back to that kind of like dance moms culture, they expect it to be a little bit crazy, and it's just...
You've created something different. It kind of sounds like a fun comp that they're going to. I mean, there's a little bit of competitiveness there, but you're promoting different values, maybe that aren't at other events out there that exist in the dance space.
Yeah, I mean, it's a competition. There's always going to be a competitive nature, and you know, the kids always want to win. Of course they do. That's why they're there. But it's more about being inspired by other dancers, and if they win a trophy, that is just the cherry, right? That's just the cherry on top of the cake. If they've come and they've enjoyed the day and they've enjoyed the experience, and they've kind of built it up on stage and they've built their performance skills and they've had chance to show their parents and grandparents all the stuff that they've been learning, and they've made maybe new dance friends, that's far more important than winning that trophy. Although, you know, I do hold regionals. I've got a grand national event coming up, which is a huge event where dancers from all over the country that have placed first, second and third come to the event and they get to compete against the best of the best. So there's definitely kind of accolade there, and it's definitely prestigious from that aspect, but yeah, it should be fun. You shouldn't go to a comp if it's not fun and you're too scared to get on that stage, because what's the point in doing it otherwise?
Very true. I think, there needs to be that element of, I'm going to go and have a great time and I'm going to enjoy myself, and there'll be that competition there that's, that's inevitably going to be there. So.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant to catch up with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I mean, great business.
It was. It is a great business, and thank you very much for coming and chatting to us on the podcast. Another fantastic podcast guest.
Another fantastic podcast guest, and one that this time round wasn't one of our customers.
Yeah, I think to have somebody who's not a customer on is very interesting, but also because she is in the kids activity industry space and doing something very different in the form of events, it was just interesting to hear more about her background as a dancer, but also her business model.
Yeah, business model's great, and actually we hopefully maybe doing some event-based stuff with Jasmine in the near future.
Lurking in the future.
But yeah, great podcast, and it was a long one, so let's just wrap this up quick.
I think so. Let's do it. Thank you, Jasmine, for coming on to the podcast and also for being a great participant at Friday Stand Up.
Indeed. 1,
2,
3.
Bye.